If you run a company, you always have to think first. People from outside always think it's easy to run a company.
How do you manage work-life balance?
I'm strict on timing, I'm strict on tasks. God created us different, male and female. I was wrong, please forgive me, I love you.
Salutare și bun venit la podcastul Conversații cu impact. Mă bucur foarte mult să-l avem astăzi ca și invitat pe doctorul Christoph Senft din Austria. Dumnealui are o experiență bogată în afaceri, în viața de familie și am vrea să cunoaștem mai multe dedesubturi despre viața unui antreprenor din Austria, despre viața de familie și viața personală și spirituală. Dr. Christoph Senft, thank you so much for accepting to be today with me for this podcast Conversation with Impact. And tell us a little bit about yourself, about your story. Who is Dr. Christoph Senft?
Thanks for the invitation. Let me start with a very special day in my life. It's almost 30 years ago, in March 1996, I was on a ski tour with my friends. I live in Austria in the mountains, and I had a ski accident. I fell into a gorge, and I dislocated my shoulder. And I couldn't get away alone, it was obvious. My friends who joined me moved away to go for help, and I was alone. And suddenly it was quiet. And up to that point, it was never quiet in my life. And beginning, I had a good mood, and I thought about good things in my life and all my travels I had done up to this point. I had seen all continents, I'd even been to Africa, South America, Australia, New Zealand. And then it got slightly darker, and I thought about, that's a good opportunity to have a kind of analysis of my life up to that point. And then it got really serious. And I started first to look at my professional side. And I thought back, years before, I have a good education. I studied computer science at the Technical University in Vienna, even with a PhD. And then I realized that I'm also good in talking to people, so I wanted to learn about management. And I went to a business school in France, a prestigious school. And after that, I worked 3 years for an American consulting company. Mitt Romney was my boss. Many steps above me, Mitt Romney, the guy who lost years later against Barack Obama, the American president elections. But he was a really good boss. I learned a lot by him. But then I realized to do something on my own. We'll talk about it later, I think. And I started my first 2 little companies. And I realized in that moment of truth that both companies were in trouble. All my financing, all my savings, all the financial sources I had went into these companies, and I couldn't get them up from the ground. It made me a little bit think about. And then I looked at my private side, and then it got really awful. I always wanted to have a family, but I just saw a girlfriend, and in that moment where I was truthful to me, I realized that I would never marry her, and that made me really sad. And then I looked again at my watch, and nobody came to help me. I was in this gorge, pain in the shoulder, couldn't move, couldn't stand up. It got darker, got colder. And then I thought about my grandmother. My grandmother told me a lot about the Bible. Her husband, my grandfather, he was a priest. He died before I was born, but my grandmother told me a lot about Jesus and the stories and about God. It never had a deeper meaning to me. But in that moment of really being very down, I just thought, I would call it now my first prayer. If God, if you really exist, I need you now. And about 10 minutes later, friends showed up with a rescue team. They realized that I couldn't get out of this situation. They called for a helicopter. In Austria, we have lots of helicopters in the mountains to rescue people. And they got me out on a long rope, on a 30 meters rope. They flew me to the next hospital. They relocated my shoulder, and my pain was over. And I was in hospital a week afterwards because I needed a serious surgery. And I was alone. For this week in my head, it was going, what happened? Was this a coincidence or was it a really intervention of God in my life? And after this week, I talked to a friend of mine in Vienna, and she said, no, might not be a coincidence. Please, I lived at that time in Munich, go to my Christian business friends. They have the personality like you have in Munich. And I went there, and I just stepped into a Bible group. I had no idea what a Bible group was. They're sitting together, and every Wednesday they discussed about topics in the Bible. And I there got a really speed education, and it changed my life completely, in my values, in my personal life, whatever.
Yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourself, and such a nice story. And
it was a strong story. It was a painful story, but probably I needed it.
With a happy end.
We'll talk about it in a few moments.
Okay. I wonder what inspired you to start your business, and what was the first step you took?
At the beginning, I was an employee, and I hated it after a while to be told by others how to do things. And I just saw I might do it better, leading people, and I also want to earn the success of being an entrepreneur. And so after 3 years of working hard for this American consulting company to tell others, as a consulting company, you tell others what to do. And I just want to prove myself, I also can do it on my own. Mm-hmm. And this was a strong inspiration for me, and I had no family at that time, so I could take the risk and put all my financing in startup. And it were a publishing company and an internet company in very early days of the internet. So the inspiration was, don't tell others, also try it on your own.
Yeah, good to know. What was your biggest early failure, and how did you bounce back?
In my following 30 years, I had different business steps, and probably one of my biggest failure was of being too fast. I already had an automotive supply company with friends, and we had the pressure to grow, but we grew too fast, we took too much risk, and we underestimated the needs of the clients. If you run a company, you always have to think first, what are your clients doing, and what are trends in the market? And we underestimated that, and so we lost 2/3 of the company by bankruptcy. And there were management mistakes, and this was painful again. But the mistake was underestimating the needs of the clients. And perhaps being a little bit too greedy.
Appreciate your vulnerability and sharing this with us. How did you validate your business idea before launching?
My first two businesses, which were in trouble, I had no big validation. I just saw the early days of the internet. Nobody could imagine in the early 90s what was coming. So I just started and just tried with full energy and everything. Years later, when I worked with an automotive supply company, I already had years of experience and did a much more serious approach. As the early day strategic consultants, I looked at the market, I looked at the trends, and it was an aluminum casting company, and I saw that the pressure of cars is to reduce the cost of traveling, to get a car in weight down, to make it lighter. Even now we have it with the electric cars, the distance is an important one. So the trend was substitute steel versus aluminum. And since we had an aluminum foundry, I saw this long-term trend, aluminum will replace everything in a car. So it was a very strong validation point for me just to look at the future trends to do. And that's why we bought this. It was even a bankrupt aluminum foundry. That's when we started more than 20 years ago, which was my final big business venture I did.
Oh, thank you. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when starting out?
Many things. First, concerning people. Sometimes I underestimated how people behave, how awful sometimes business can be when you're confronted with questions of bribing, of all these immoral things, to be really straight from the beginning. Different experiences, I knew that there are, whenever you are involved in bribing, for example, you create dependencies to somebody else and you should avoid it. And luckily it was not so much I was involved with bribing, but one story was when we tried to build a factory in Slovakia. People told me you have to bribe the mayor to get the real estate there, and which was for me totally immoral. And then we found a solution with my friends and partners, and we sponsored the kindergarten, and so this helped. But I'm sure that there are much more steps I could have done earlier in my life to be more strict, to find good solutions with positive examples also for society and not only for myself.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer. And next question, how do you stay motivated through tough times or slow growth periods?
Luckily, I am a positive person. My wife is completely different, and she always laughs. It's difficult to see you in a depressed mode. So I'm so thankful for my life. And if I see this country here, and then I see my country at home, and sometimes you compare and see how lucky I have been to live in such a peaceful place, and also see what God meant for me in my life. And this really motivates me more or less every day. Yeah. And I know that I'm also a motivator for many other people. I once did a very complicated test, and the outcome was you're a motivator for others. Good. So it's kind of inner gift I got from God.
What was the turning point that helped you scale your business?
In my final business, which was this aluminum foundry, we started off, in fact, there was a starting point and turning point and an ending point. Let's put it this way. The starting point was that before this, I worked for a stock market quoted company, and I hated it, to be rated every day by the stock price. And I thought it's more wise to make long-term decisions, and the stock market always looks for short-term decisions, which is good for the stock price. So I decided the next company I will do will be privately owned, if possible, with people which share my values and my beliefs, and it also should be close to my home. And I found with friends a company which was bankrupt because the owner, sounds sad, but it was so, the owner was killed by his wife. And she went to prison for 20 years, and the company was still running without managers and ownerships, and then went into bankruptcy with good products. So we could start, and this was the starting point. We put together our money, we put together 5 friends, and we started with 80 employees. And I think we did a good job. So we were growing, and also turning points were expansion. And we opened new factories, and we moved, for example, to Slovakia and built a factory there, so we could keep cost under control, because labor cost was at that time just a third of Austria. So this was another push towards the company, and the clients we found just by going to Slovakia. We found Porsche as a new client, which was just fantastic for us.
Yeah, let's continue with this. decision-making process, the next question is, what's your process for strategic decision-making under pressure?
Under pressure, you still have to sit down to avoid the pressure and to think and to discuss it. It's not good to do strategy under pressure. Strategy means to think ahead, to plan, and this is not business decisions are under pressure, but strategic decisions need a little bit of analyzing, of discussing, of having experts you interview, and you need to understand your clients, you need to understand the market trends, you need to understand your cost position, you need to understand your business model. This is strategic thinking and put it all together. And so for me, this doesn't go along pressure and strategic thinking. Pressure you have on everyday decisions. If you're troubled with your clients, you're under pressure to respond. So strategic thinking, get out of the daily business. At least once a year we did a strategic weekend with the owners team and the management team, and we moved somewhere to a mountain hut, or we also got some food, and to get away from the daily routine, to think about our business and how it will go ahead. So take out the pressure if you work on strategy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And when did you realize it was time to bring in outside help or higher leadership roles?
In one day when we were growing in our automotive supply business, we saw it's even if we were a team who had complementary skills, it's good to have outside role, outside advice. And I met just by coincidence a former Volkswagen manager, VW, and he advised us. So we met him, so somehow put on a board once a quarter, and it helped to grow the company further.
Okay.
It was, sometimes it's strategy and sometimes it's just pure luck.
Yeah.
Or you call it afterwards, say it was strategy, but it just happened.
Yeah.
So things, man, sometimes just happen in business, and you have to react.
Mm-hmm.
But still you have to be open. What's going on outside? And if I meet somebody, I think, oh, could he be helpful?
Yeah, thank you. Let's continue with leadership and company culture. And what's your leadership style? And how has it evolved over the years?
I'm a very personal manager. I love to talk to people. On one side, I'm strict on timing, I'm strict on tasks, but I realized that it's also important to give trust to the people, to delegate. I try to control my ego somehow. I know I'm good in many things. My wife is also good advice for me. Don't overestimate yourself. Mm-hmm. And to trust people, to delegate tasks, that's important.
Yeah, appreciate your sincerity. And let's continue with the next one. How do you foster a healthy and productive company culture?
That's exactly what fits. The people have to feel that you care for them, your employees, okay? That you even accept failures. Obviously, they shouldn't do it that often. That you create teams by complementary skills, that you help them find out what they are good in. So don't pick on the mistakes, but try to go on little successes and bigger successes. And once a month in every, we have 4 factories, or I will later come on that I sold this company 2 years ago. So we had 4 factories, and in each factory we had every month a meeting with all the 80 to 100 employees and told them what happened in the last months, what will be the investments, how the future will be, how the troubles will be. And we also try to motivate them by good salary and especially we introduced the bonus system, so 10% of the profits go to the people at the end of the year. And we have a little counter on the wall, so they see how we did last month and how their money, how the pot is growing or not growing. Sometimes it even goes down a little bit.
Fantastic. Okay, what do you look for when building your leadership team?
Complementary skills.
And
it's very important that if all go in the same, so you have the same types of people, it doesn't work. If you have complementary skills, you have a controlling mechanism for each other. So you need introverts, you need extroverts, you need salespeople, you need technical people. So you need really which position needs which skills. And sometimes you can't see it from the outside. So we even hired external trainers to work with people on tests, on talking, to find out what they are good in. And then we try to fit this person into the position we need.
Okay, thanks. And what's the hardest part of being a CEO or founder that people rarely talk about?
Lonely at the top is for many CEOs a problem, and people underestimate how hard it is. So I always advise companies or young people, don't go alone. Try already from the beginning, if possible, to have a team at the top, to control yourself, to share failures, to share success, and it makes it much easier. People from outside always think it's easy to run a company. It's not. It's really hard work. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're stuck, and then you have to start to pray. Yeah. It helped. I experienced many miracles in my times.
Yeah, thank you for a great advice. Okay, how do you handle internal conflict or employee burnout?
Well, I had, interestingly, in one of my factories in the south of Austria, which is the border to Slovenia, which is part of ex-Yugoslavia, we have many workers there from ex-Yugoslavia, and from Bosnia, from Serbia, from Croatia. And whenever they have political problems in their old home countries, they start troubles in our factory. And that I called them and said, that's the way I handle conflicts. I said, what has to do, you have lived now here in Austria, and you are Bosnian, and you are Serbian, and you are Croatian, and you're all brothers. Who cares about what's going on in your home country? And you had been friends, and suddenly you're not friends anymore. So I really give them a very hard time, and confront them directly, and we talk about it, and make sure that peace will come in. Burnout is another issue. Burnout means either I put too much stress on them professionally, or they have private problems, or the combination of both. So there's not a general answer to that. You really have to understand the individual situation. And sometimes you don't see, because I know most of my people, but not everybody. And then I see when the sickness days are going up, there is a problem here. And then I try to go behind it. Sometimes it's difficult. If the real medical issues, it's a very strong private confidentiality in this topic. So I always wanted to talk to the medical doctor to find out the problem is. My wife is a medical doctor, and she said, no, you're not allowed to call the doctor what his disease is. So this is a very sensitive topic, how to do it. But really differentiate, is it a personal issue, a private issue, or is it a business issue? And if it's a business issue, I can, and it's my duty to interfere and to help this person. And perhaps reduce his work hours, just put him on part-time, or find him an easier job within the company.
Thank you so much, and let's continue with your family life. I just discovered that you are Great expert in family life. You are part of a big organization which are helping families in Europe, around Europe, in different countries. You are teaching for conferences for couples. And what's the best marriage advice you ever received, and did it work?
Okay, let me come back to what I said before. When I came out of my gorge accident, my new friends from the Christian businessman asked me, you live together with this girl, would you ever marry her? And I said, no, I would never. And then they told me, this is not correct. You are wasting her time and you're wasting your time to find somebody else. And so I said, okay, what shall I do? And they said, you have to tell her and you have to split up. And I was really afraid at the beginning to do it, but it took me about a week. And then I told this woman, and she got very mad, and she got very angry, and she was throwing even books at me. It was the only time in my life somebody was throwing things at me. So I moved out, and then a miracle happened. Not many, just perhaps 5-6 months later, I found my first girlfriend. She was 16 and I was 17. And we fell in love at school times, and we were together for 5 years. We were inseparable, but we had no idea what we already had at that time, and we split up, unfortunately, and we didn't see us a lot for 13 years. She was married to somebody else during these years, but her first husband died at a heart attack. She had a daughter from the time. And just a few months after this coincidence in the gorge, I met her again, and it struck me immediately. She was already selected for me from God from the very beginning. And it took me so long to realize that. And I proposed to her, and we married soon afterwards, and we got a girl together. And as I say, I'm the lucky person who got in 1 year 3 girls. So a 13-year-old daughter, a youngster, and a wife. And I wanted to make marriage right from the beginning. My parents divorced when I was 1 year old. My father left, and I had no example of marriage at home. I went to university to learn a topic. I went to driving school to learn driving. I went to music school to learn piano, but where can you learn marriage? And so I asked couples, what is the secret of a good marriage? 3 couples, and they gave me more or less the same advice. They said, you have to invest in your marriage. And they said, what do you mean? How can you learn marriage? And I said, yes, attend marriage seminars, read books about it. And so I did. And this was a very big decision in my life. I want to make it right from the beginning. And I went with my wife to marriage seminars. I was reading books, and we decided a lot about it. For example, we decided kids and work will not kill our relationship. So one date night a week, and it's fixed in my diary, sometimes on different days. 1 day off a month, just with my wife, and 2 weekends a year, we just talk about our marriage. And so I really became a fan of marriages, and that's how we moved into not paid, just voluntary work to help other couples to organize marriage events. And so I became a big fan of marriages, and I realized that's what holds our society together. And the divorce rates are awful.
Yeah, thanks. And how do you keep the relationship fresh after years of being together?
That's what I just said. You really have to talk about it, and take times off. Mm-hmm. Not get absorbed by the daily routine.
Okay. Dr. Christoph, I wonder what surprised you the most about marriage that no one warned you about?
That male and female are different. When I was so stupid, I really have to admit, when I was reading great books about marriage, sometimes we buy 2 books or on the Kindle, and we read in parallel, and then sometimes I ask my wife, is this really how you females tick? And she said, that's exactly how we are. And God created us different, male and female, and we are complementary.
Yeah.
I've once been on a marriage seminar where I think there were 24 couples, and the moderator, he did a personality test with us, the Myers-Briggs test. Some of you might know. Yeah. There are 4 criteria, and so we filled out the form, and the following week he presented, he just secretly for each couple gave the results, but he said in front of the audience, there's one couple among you which is different on all 4 criteria, just one couple. And I looked to the sheet of my wife and I said, that's us. Mm. So you can imagine sometimes these differences are a real problem, but on the other side, it's a blessing, because there's not a problem, there's now no problem at all we cannot tackle together, because we span so much area to respond to.
Yeah, I like this unity in diversity you mentioned. Thank you. And how do you define a successful marriage?
Well, how do I define a successful marriage? A successful marriage is obviously if you stay together, but if you stay in a very positive mood together. And I think one very strong point is after I understood the topic of forgiveness. You hurt each other. Sometimes you don't want to hurt each other, but you need to sit down with your wife and your partner and say, or your husband, I want to clear this, and to admit that if you made a failure. And I will never forget, we did a marriage preparation evenings with our pastor. He was interestingly, it was a Canadian pastor's couple who did marriage preparation for us. And he said to my wife is Renate and Christoph to me, you two both, I tell you now the most important words, 12 words for a successful marriage. And I stared at him and he said, these are 4 sentences and each sentence has 3 words. Keep this forever, and if you go on this, you will have a successful marriage. And these 12 words are, I am sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me, I love you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. It's really good to know and to practice. In a marriage.
It always fits.
Yeah. Okay. How do you handle conflict or disagreement in your relationship?
There are quite a couple of rules we try to. First one, we have the 10 o'clock rule. I am an evening person, my wife is a morning person. So we really have to watch out. I'm good in talking in the evening, she's good in talking in the morning. And I would always try to clear a conflict late in the evening, but not no complicated topics with my wife after 10 o'clock. It's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you can only clear a conflict if it's somehow you need a quiet environment and not being interfered with others. You cannot talk about conflicts if somebody else is listening to it. Next one I try is don't shoot too strong on the other side. Sometimes you trigger a big verbal bump if even just a smooth throw would be enough. And then somehow you have to stop it if you disagree, calm it down and try to clear it afterwards. But in life there are also unresolvable conflicts. I was reading a good book by a famous American marriage counselor, John Gottman, and he said, 30-40% of conflicts are unresolvable in marriages, so just let them stand. One final advice strikes me, try not to get the conflict between you, like we're sitting here, just try to put the conflict in opposite, move together and say, okay, this is the conflict, and now let's talk about it. It's not between us, it's over there.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. And what are your non-negotiable in marriage, and have they changed over the time?
Obviously, since I am a child of divorce, divorce is non-negotiable. I married when I was already 35, so I was, luckily, I never married before, I have to say. So this word, and even in this marriage preparation, the pastor said divorce is a word which doesn't exist. You go through, whatever happens, you just stick together. And this did not change over time. This is not negotiable.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you. What does emotional intimacy look like in your relationship?
Emotional intimacy for my wife and for me are different. Emotional intimacy, and is for my wife and for females in general is talking. Luckily, my wife always said she married somebody. For me, it's easier to talk than for many other men, I know that. But emotional intimacy always is talking. Obviously, for me, I have a stronger desire for sex. So emotional intimacy also means somehow having a sexual outlet. And so it's important for our marriage to fit these two together, to have time for her before, when we date night, sometimes most of the time we also have sex, but to calm down, to talk about get all the kids out of her head, to have a dinner together, just the two of us, go out and talking. This is, and even sometimes if I don't feel like it, I try to overcome myself. I know it's important for her.
Yeah, thank you. How do you support each other's personal goals while still growing as a couple?
My wife is a medical doctor. She just retired recently, so for decades she had been the doctor of the little mountain village where we live. And she cares for stupid little issues of her patients. I had run companies for many years, and sometimes I was really forced to do tough measures. So it's completely different. There had been a moment in my life where I had to fire a third of my employees, and they were coming back a year after. So this understanding, when she talks to me about a little problem of one person, and I talk to her, do you know, I have to fire in this factory 30 people. This is such a wide span. And she says, okay, I understand what you have to do. Supporting in this case is just talking about it in the morning and supporting and also praying for it, and not for me just joking about her little issue when I have a big issue. So to understand each other, that also creates intimacy between a couple.
Yeah, thank you. Such a good point. Do you believe in traditional gender roles within a marriage? Why yes or why not? On one side, I just can look at my own life. Mm-hmm. And what is a traditional gender role? The woman stays at home and she's cooking and she cares for the kids, and the male go out. I think for me it's the way how can each person in a marriage can develop on one side, fulfill own goals, and as we have lived, it's a mix. When our younger daughter, our common daughter, was born, which was 27 years ago, Renate was at home for 6 months, and then as she had to go back into her medical practice, I took off 6 months, and I had a wonderful time. I just worked 1 day a week at that time with my little daughter. And was this traditional or not traditional? This is changing now over the years. And within the second 6 months in her life, we trained hard that her first word was not mama, it was papa. Mm. And I didn't succeed with the first sentence. The first sentence would have been, papa is the best.
and but she failed here.
Yeah, congratulations. It's good to hear this.
It was Papa, Auto, Mama. So Papa, car, Mama were her first three words. So Mama was number 3.
Yeah. I have a small daughter at house, Ariel. She's 2 years old, and she called me. She said every time, "I am daddy's girl. I am daddy's girl."
Yeah.
And this is like a compliment for me. And this is what I say. Congratulations! Thank you so much. What's one moment in your marriage that changed everything, for better or worse?
I think we didn't have any moments which changed, which had a big impact. It's relative, especially compared to my professional life, which was a real roller coaster. My private life after marriage was quite smooth. There were no big steps. We have now a positive impact. My wife retired, and I could sell the company I was running for more than 20 years, also 2 years ago. So we're in a very special period of life now, a very positive one. On one side, which is not so positive, our parents passed away, they're gone, and there are no grandchildren here yet. So we know that we have a very limited window of opportunity for us to travel, to do other things, and we're looking forward to grandchildren, and then we'll have to stick more at home. Yeah. So this year and last year we already had been a lot on the road, and that's also why I had time to come to this country.
Seems like the real life just started for you. Okay, if you could go back to the day you got married, what advice you would give to yourself?
As I said, this decision, when you are in, when it got really serious at the wedding ceremony, the pastor asks, "Do you, Christoph, want to honor and love and respect your wife, whatever happens, until death you part?" I didn't realize that this was unconditional. He didn't say, "Do you only want to love your wife when she's nice to you?" So afterwards I realized this was no condition. Whatever happens, does she respect me in a moment or not? I still have to love her and respect her unconditionally. And this is an advice I would give young couples. Really accept this. Whatever happens, if you say yes to these questions, then it is a real decision for your life. So I always say you have 2 important decisions in your life. One is find your way to your father who created you, and the second decision is find the right partner.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. And I wonder, you mentioned about unconditionally. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's very hard.
Yeah, I know.
And next question is, how do you rebuild trust after it's been broken? I never had really broken in my private life. In professional, sometimes it happens. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes difficult to rebuild trust. It takes time. It takes time, and to try to clear the reason, and then just by proving step by step by step. This typically rebuilding trust is difficult. And that's why also sometimes only one wrong sentence can destroy a relationship. You have to control your tongue. It's sometimes not easy, especially for women. They're sometimes hurting. And I've seen many couples where females are stronger in verbal fighting than men, and then awful things happen. And men retreat, they don't talk, and they get in a very negative cycle of the marriage. What heritage do you hope your marriage leaves for your children, for your community?
Heritage means, what would people think when I'm dead? And in this way, I'd like I brought here a book. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. And this book was written by an Australian nurse. And she worked in a hospital, a palliative station, where people are at the end of their lives. And she collected in lots of talks, what do people regret when they look back at their lives. And out of these 5 regrets, the most common one, I shouldn't have worked so hard. I should have expressed more my feelings. I should have cared more for my friends. So when I was reading this book, I thought, oh, I now have time to think about this. What should be my heritage? And I think heritage to my family. He was not only a good businessman, he also was a good father. And he did a lot for the family. And I think also with my friends, they will say, yeah, he did quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you. And let's have some light and fun questions about family. Who said, I love you first, and what happened next?
Can't actually remember, but because when today my friends laugh about it, when Renate and I fell in love in 16 and 17, I already tried for months to get closer, but I was so shy, she even didn't realize. But then probably it was kind of whispering of love when it was dark at a students' party, school kids' party, and then I think we just kissed each other. So I will never forget the day and the time of my first kiss. It was in the evening of the 27th of May 1978. What happens next? We were inseparable for 5 years, broke up, we met again, and now we're married for 28 years.
Yeah, yeah.
What a life, what a romance. I'm so happy for that. And I'm thankful. I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, good for you. What's the weirdest argument you have ever had as a couple?
We have one topic we completely disagree. It's driving a car. When I like cars. I'm in the automotive business. I have a BMW. It has lots of power, and we sometimes have really awful discussions. These stupid discussions. How close you get to the car in front of you. I've said, if the distance is too long, somebody else will squeeze in. So we have, and she said, but you're a strong Christian person, you're driving too fast, you're pushing other cars. And said, no, I'm not pushing them. And so this is arguments we can have. And sometimes she said, okay, you drive, I'm now too tired on this topic.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay. What's a couple's tradition or inside joke you have that no one else would understand from outside?
I'm a punctual person. So I educated my family. For example, if we go somewhere and we have to be there at, let's say, 8 o'clock, and the way to go there is 15 minutes, we leave sharp 15 minutes before we will be there. So if I set a date, my family is used to get into the car at this point in time. Properly clothed, probably shaved or whatever. And a visit of my cousin from Australia. And in Australia, everything is much more relaxed. And so we had to leave at 7:45, and the family was standing in the front of the, before we left the house, and my cousin was coming out of his room. And he had not his shoes on, and he had to go to the toilet. And then he looked at my family, and then he looked at me, and he realized, and then he said this famous sentence, Christoph runs a tight ship. So whenever something is, then the family joke is Christoph runs a tight ship.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. What's the most romantic or ridiculous thing you have done for each other?
Romantic and ridiculous, that's a good one. From our 25th anniversary, wedding anniversary, I tried to cook something special for my wife. And I thought back when we are on vacations, which meal did she really like? And it struck me that it was fish dorade in salt crust.
Okay.
So in the Mediterranean countries, they serve you, and then it's covered with salt, and then they have a spoon, chuck, put away the salt, and then they have this wonderful taste of this dorade fish. So I went to bought the two fish. And I bought a special salt in the fish shop, and I looked at the internet and I googled all the recipes, and I put this in the oven, and I checked perfectly the timing, and then I took it out, but the salt was so hard. It was impossible to get the fish out. So I had to go in my workshop and get the hammer and this chisel, I think you call it, and it was a big mess in the kitchen. It looked awful to hammer out the fish of the salt. So it was the kitchen was destroyed. It was a ridiculous scenery, but my wife enjoyed the fish and all my efforts I had. But I will never do it again. So it was romantic and ridiculous in the same way.
Okay, thank you. And let's go now for the last part of our podcast today. Some questions about personal, philosophical. And what does success mean to you beyond the numbers?
Success means what's purpose in life. When I realized that there is somebody who created us, our Father in heaven, who created us as His image. Success means to realize that is, and someday we will pass away from this earth. We will be reunited with Him. We just have to accept His offer. It's for free. Christianity is the only religion where we get this for free. We don't have to, like many other religions, to fulfill everything. And to accept this and also talk to others about it, that makes me really feel good. And I think success is, to have this, to find the purpose in life and also to pass it on.
Okay, thank you. How do you manage work-life balance, or do you believe in it at all?
Sure. Work-life balance is pretty important, and it all comes down to time management. I've seen many managers, and I fear it's also in this country, that people cannot properly manage their own timing, set priorities. It's important to understand this. I brought here, thank you for this question, by the way. This is a very famous book written by an American author, by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talks a lot about setting goals, setting priorities, time management, understanding the difference of urgent tasks and important tasks. What can you delegate? What can you eliminate to free your own time?
Yeah, thank you. Another question. What's a common myth about entrepreneurship you'd like to debunk?
The myth of entrepreneurship, outsiders always think it's easy to run a company. It's not easy to run a company. And the myth is you make lots of money. No, you don't make lots of money. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. For us, for 20 years, we never paid dividends. We just had to invest all the profits we had, and sometimes I hated it. Oh, you're an entrepreneur, you must have a lot of money. No, that's not true.
Okay. And what legacy do you want your business to leave behind?
We sold, the children didn't want to take over when in the last few years when I'm moving towards retirement. So we found an investor to buy the company. And when I think back, the legacy, what is my heritage, that people still, I'm now on the board of this company, they love me when they see me or they like me and say, oh, Christoph, sometimes we are sorry that you are not here anymore on the day-to-day business. So I just feel, oh, I lived some positive heritage, what I did here. And I think as a heritage, as a professional manager, to create a company which was stable even in a difficult business environment, and also have given the people the feeling, he cared for us, he looked after us. Mm-hmm. I will never forget, just struck me, in 2009 we had this Lehman Brothers financial crisis which swapped over towards Europe on business crisis, and people didn't buy enough cars, and so we could not, and we had to lay off really many people, and they all came back the year afterwards. But the unions came into our factory, in the one just thinking about, and the union said, wanted to make troubles, and then our workers' council sent them home and said to them, we trust Christoph and my friend, Christian friend Joseph. I was the CFO, he was the CEO. They said, we trust our two bosses more than you, please go home, we will do this internally.
Yeah. Dr. Christoph, I wonder, how has your personal life influenced the way you lead or make decisions in business?
As a business leader, you are sometimes overconfident. You have a big ego, or many of us have, and you have over-ego. And if you, and it luckily happened to me, have a great wife who is a good mirror to me. Whenever I have a blind spot, people in business usually don't tell you directly, but my wife does. So the personal interaction with my wife obviously showed me, she's a mirror sometimes, and she gives me a mirror to me, what is wrong with my beliefs or my attitudes or my style. And this helped me to develop, to grow, and to transfer it into my professional life. One example is my impatience. Mm-hmm. I am an impatient person, and I'm not better to control my patience. Sometimes give people more time to think about, accept more failures. And so my wife helped me here quite a lot. Blind spot is a critical topic in people's life. And you really need to have good friends to tell you. Mm-hmm. Because there are things people see about me and I know. But awful are the things people see and I don't know. That's what I call a blind spot.
It's good to have some people who will come to you directly and will say what they trust or believe about you, and it's important. Okay, I have a few more questions, and
please go on.
Let me have a sip. What daily routines or personal habits have had the biggest impact on your productivity or mindset?
I am not a good morning person. I'm an evening person, and in the morning when I get up, I never start with a coffee, always start with a cup of tea, and I sit down with my wife for 15 minutes. We talk about the topics of the day, and we pray with each other. As a fan of marriage, as I realized, I really can advise you, if you're able to pray with your wife, this really helps marriage a lot. And so to pray for the topics of the day, it's not long, it's just a few minutes. It's really a routine we have, and which I think improved my day up to this day. I'm here a week in Moldova. I couldn't pray because she couldn't join me this time. But the moment at home, we start again.
Yeah, it's a good way to start the day, talking of your spouse. Yeah, if you had to start over tomorrow with nothing, but your knowledge and experience, what's the first thing you'll do?
With nothing, first, look again for personal, private partner. And I would start immediately with a business, because I have lots of knowledge, as you said, but with partners. I can advise not go alone. It's much easier. The most successful things I did were always with partners, sharing your values and beliefs. Find a good partnership to share the troubles, to control each other, to share success. That's what the first thing I would do. And then probably I would think about which business to move in and move on.
Yeah, and I want to say a special thank you for good partnership with us, with Leader Impact here in Moldova. And I know this is your first time in Moldova. And my last question for you, how you want to see Moldova and what are your wishes for our country?
I came here last Saturday to visit a very specific place. 8 years ago, a friend of mine came over and he told me, do you know, I would like to build a home for children in a little village in Moldova. He said he has been there and there is a woman there, she has a strong vision to do this. Can you help me to raise financing? He already started. And so I invested money and we talked to people, and my friend was also strong Bauer. And we overall, he also with my help and other friends, we raised 250,000 euros. And with this money, it was a shelter for children. It's not an orphanage that children can survive. It's just a wonderful place. At the moment, there are 9 children there to grow, and they come from very complicated parental situations, so they can develop as a personality and they have a good home there. And this was the reason why I came over. And I wanted to see it. I never had time. Now I have more time. And now, at the moment I come to this country, I was trying to understand a little bit more this country. And I was astonished that there are roughly 3.5 million Moldovans, but a third live outside Moldova. There's a huge diaspora, and only 2/3 are in this country. Why? Because the youngsters see no future here. You make much more money outside. So what's my vision? There's now the question for this country. How can this country develop to have a future for the youngsters to be here? And this woman who built this shelter home, she has the vision to start a business where these young people, when they grow, can work so they don't have to go outside. And her idea is in this place in the south of Moldova to start a bakery. And so this also will be my little vision to help her to find the financing, to start a bakery, to start with a little company here, that the youngsters have a future, that they don't have to go abroad. Obviously, my second vision is for this country would be to live in a free, democratic world. As part of the EU, there will be more investments, and if you just watch other countries like Bulgaria, Romania, standard of living is moving up. If you have an open society, if you have a democratic way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Christoph Senft. Thank you. It was a privilege to ask you questions and to receive such a great advices and visions for our personal, family, and professional life. You're more than welcome to visit us again in our country, Moldova. Thank you for your time. It was a privilege for me to talk with you, and I want to say thank you to all our people who are seeing us. Vreau să vă mulțumesc pentru că ați fost alături de noi, pentru că ne urmăriți. Dați un like, share, subscribe la canalul Leader Impact și podcastul nostru Conversații cu Impact. Vă așteptăm luna viitoare.